Hello, beautiful Heart and Hustle listeners. Welcome to another episode of Heart and Hustle, where we are talking with visionaries and healers and movers and shakers and people who are creating change in the world, people who are stepping into the life of their desires and their stories and their journeys and their inspirations and what they can do to also help guide you. Wherever we go with these conversations is always improvisational and fabulous. And if you don't know me, I am Paulette Rees-Denis. I am your magic maker, your movement motivator, your domestic mystic. And I just love bringing you these conversations. And we get to have Blaise Kennedy here with us today. He's in British Columbia. And Blaise, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm so delighted to meet you. I'm so curious. Oh my God. So in reading a lot of Blaise's bio, there's a lot of big, beautiful spiritual words and happenings. And Blaise is a spiritual teacher and a creator of developmental architecture. What does that mean,
You know
Blaise?
what? There are many, I'm going to try to make them as palatable and understandable as possible. There are lots of words and things that I've created. I got a lot of words.
I love
And
that.
I think more broadly is to say, I'm creating programs in the world, and I'm creating programs that I think are designed to help us thrive in all of the different areas of our spirituality. For me, spirituality is faceted. It has all these different elements, and they're all important, and they really all need, or there's an opportunity to have a sort of a unique way to meet all of the different aspects of ourselves. So, developmental architecture is one particular approach or program that I've run right before we're recording. I just ran a group that's based on light and the process of incarnation. I teach about meditation. I teach about awakening, healing from trauma, manifestation, as much of the ground of spirituality and consciousness that I can cover in an integrated way. I do, and that's why there's so many words.
I love all of that. Of course, I'm a writer and a poet and I love words anyway. And having people write their stories is also really important. Um, so I want to hear a little bit about your journey though. How did you get to this space?
Well, the first thing was that I was very lost and I had a very difficult life as a young person. And I had this huge gap between my sense of my intelligence and potential and what was actually looking at my life. And I was vexed. I was suffering a lot. I was in a lot of pain. I made a lot of mistakes. I got in a lot of trouble. And one day, it just kind of occurred to me, I was about 23 when it started to dawn on me, the only thing I haven't really tried in this life or open to is spirituality. And I think that's what I'm going to do with my life.
Mhm.
And developmentally, a developmental maybe neurologist or in therapy as well, people would say that that's when you get to be about in your early 20s as a young man, you begin to have metacognition. Your sort of prefrontal cortex or your higher centers come online, and you can begin to make evaluative decisions, witnessing decisions about your life and who you are and where you want to go. And so before I had that, I was just doing what I was living in a very conditioned way. And I was just kind of doing what living reactively and doing what the product of what my experience was. When I was about 24, I began to interact with the life that I was living and that I had lived from a higher place. And I realized this is what I wanted to do with my life. But I
Mhm.
started at a great debt. I was in a lot of trouble, pain. My life was not going it well. I often tell people when I was 24 years old, I didn't even know how to tie my shoes. And so I had a long, long, long way to go. So when I was 24, I I ended up being sent to a treatment center, and I loved it for addiction, and I loved it. And I realized I have a tremendous work ethic and fascination with spirituality. I was
Mm.
so grateful for my in my life to have a direction, to be motivated. It thrilled me for the first time in my life to be
Yes.
intrinsically motivated to do something. And that was what, 16 years ago. And basically, I've just worked as hard and diligently as I possibly have could in that time and covered a lot of ground. So I'll,
Wow, I'm
I'll
sure you
do.
have, and that's amazing. And so over those 16 years, whatever, since then, I mean, you've had to step into a lot of study, a lot of having um, guides. Um, and so what was part of that path for you? How did you get to where you are today now?
The first one was assigned to me. The first one was, you are a recovering drug addict and you need to do these very specific things. You don't get a lot of say in it. You got to do this. And I said, okay, I think you're right. I'll do this. And I did it for 2 years. I did the whole recovery program, which I found really beautiful and fascinating, and
Oh,
to
good.
some degree informs what I do now. But what they didn't do is really talk a lot about consciousness or the body or presence or trauma. And I was fascinated in all of these things. It was for me, it felt quite mental. And so I kind of did my time. I did really 2 years in the program. And about that time, I decided I was going to start meditating. And I just sort of fell in love with meditation, and I did it on my own. I didn't have any teacher. And I did that for about 2 years. And then I felt like I was just kind of waiting around for something. And I had this really wonderful convergence. I met my now wife at the time, which felt like a collision, like a cosmic soul collided with this woman.
Love
It
it.
was very, very intense. And I knew immediately as soon as I saw her that I was going to be with her.
Oh, nice.
And from this higher knowing that I'd never experienced before. And she was very into spirituality at this time. And she introduced me to both my primary teachers in this life, Adi Ashanti, who's a meditation teacher from California, and Thomas Hubel, who is a embodiment teacher from
Mm.
California and or from Austria and Israel. And right away, when my wife introduced me, I read books by Adi Ashanti on meditation, and I suddenly realized, oh, there's all these other people who have thought and experienced a lot about meditation that are really rich guides. And I
Mm.
absorbed as much as I possibly could from this man. And she bought me a ticket to see Thomas Hubel, who was visiting the city I was in. And I met this guy, and it blew my my body mind. It blew my body mind just to be in his presence. And he elucidated a path uh, that really required looking at the body and looking at the developmental history and looking at how we are in relationship. And these two things were really the cornerstone of what I did. Uh, I spent a lot of time meditating, and I spent a lot of time feeling my body.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Actually, I was just talking about that today when I was doing a public speaking thing about listening to yourself and tuning into yourself and finding that quiet place, whether it be with meditation. So it's interesting for those 2 years you were in, you started that program, they didn't get you into meditation, you found it somewhere else.
But they told me the really basic things, even more fundamental. I mean, when you are recovering from addiction, you're not in a good place.
Hmm.
So th- what they pointed out to me is the fact that I was not listening to myself. I didn't know how I felt. I
Mm.
was not being honest, and I was not connected to myself. And I realized, like, without that information, how could you possibly be successful or well in life if you're not connected to yourself? So
All right.
they open the door to this very, for me, revolutionary idea. Like, you could be, and perhaps should be, aware of what is actually going on for you. So that is a kind of meditation in itself. It is a presencing, it is a self-awareness. But
Right.
as a practice, that was not their fundamental orientation. They didn't have you sit in silence or go on retreat or any of these things. That came
Yeah.
much later. And really, I had some other work to do first that AA was really helpful for. The program was really helpful for.
It's a lot of work, a lot of good personal work, though. Isn't that so juicy?
You know what? There's never been a layer where I've been like, this layer is boring.
Mm-hmm.
Every layer, Thomas Hubel has this line like whatever step you are on now, or the step that you're coming into, is always the most important step. And so it felt like that the whole time. It felt like whatever thing I was learning, this was the cutting edge. And it's still like that. It's always going to be like that. That's the joy of it. So yeah, there's a lot of work. And I just I'm really fortunate that I love it. There's nothing I like more
Well,
than it.
that was meant to be your path, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's great. And so along this journey, besides all the self-work that you have done on yourself and the growth and the spiritual awareness, which, I think so many people are just so afraid of. And so afraid to have that deep connection with themselves because there's so much busyness, whether you're doing lots of social media or I don't know. I just find so much that it's hard for people to stop and listen, which is, I'm sure, a lot of your work is helping people do that, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, there's for me, two reasons why it's challenging for people to stop, or maybe three. Let's call it three reasons. Maybe by the
Or
time I
4 or
start
5.
speaking, there'll be four or five. I've come up with three so far.
Okay.
One is that our culture does not very actively support it.
Yeah.
So when you go to the grocery store, when you talk to your neighbor, and someone says, "How are you today?" The reflexive answer is, "I'm well." We just are not particularly skilled or adept or culturally prepared for introspection. And so when you can go through the world, you can go through the education system, you can grow up with your parents, you can all these things without anyone ever really supporting you to learn how to do this. This is one. The second thing is that the motivation to
Mhm.
grow is
Mhm.
not always, or to the why is not always present for people. For me, and a lot of people who come into awakening through or spirituality through suffering, the why is because, things are not very good. But that in itself is not enough. I think because inner work is so challenging and puts you at your edge all the time, you
Mhm.
have to have a really strong motivation to want to do this. And I was very disconnected. I would call that coming from your soul. And I was very disconnected from that. So many people don't feel that level of motivation. So this is one of my main goals is helping people reconnect with their motivation. Like,
Yes.
why are you here with me now? Like, where are you going? Because if you can feel your drive, which everyone has an innate drive. If you can feel that, it will propel you through the
And
challenges in your life.
and what about those people who can't feel that?
Well, that's my job. My job is to help them feel that.
Right.
And with enough support,
Hmm.
just like learning to read, one day a child's like, I can't read. It's like, yeah, that's right now. That's why we're here. We're here to learn how to read. And if I
Hmm.
stay with you and we just keep practicing, you will learn how to read. It's the same with most spiritual capacities. If you have enough support and you stay with it enough, and there's enough encouragement and guidance, you will learn. You will learn how to be connected to that. And I have a I have developed quite a strong ability to see and feel people. And so I can be very helpful in this regard. And I want to pause, but I want to say the third reason I think that self-work or being driven is doing the work is hard is the nature of trauma. So trauma is just any experience through our life which remains unprocessed because it's by its nature overwhelming. And so it's very natural to not want to feel things that were overwhelming in your past.
Hmm.
If as a child it was not accepted or met by your parents or it overwhelmed you physiologically, it's really natural to not want to feel it. That's the sort of defensive mechanism of the
Hmm.
body mind. And so when I was really young, I thought, like, look at me, like I'm scared to face myself. I'm some sort of coward. And, I was very, very hard on myself. And then I realized, well, that's what the defensive mechanism of trauma is actually actively doing to protect you from it. It's trying to have you not feel it. And unless you are able to sort of recognize that mechanism in action and realize, as I did, that I experienced trauma, as we all do on this planet, and this defensive force is taking over our life, then it just kind of runs your life. It just makes decisions for you. But
Hmm.
when you can get connected to a deeper motivation and you learn how to access the body and you get support to really feel the things that are here within yourself, when you get the support that you need and you're connected to your motivation, it can become very palatable and even um, for me an empowering experience, a genuinely joyous adventure.
I love that. And yes, it can be joyous. And yes, it can be hard. But I mean, I do talk about this kind of thing as well, this kind of journey. And why is always the big question. Why? Because if you don't know your why, how can you find the answer? Or the answer that works, the answer that you can embody. Um, so I love it. And it's just um there's so many my mind is like, wow. It's so good. Um, all right, so okay, I want to talk about your work for a minute, then I want to talk about you. So how do you work with people? I mean,
Well,
they come to you with the idea of I need to find my spiritual connection.
when I started, I wasn't really sure where to start with people, and so I've been working with people professionally for 6 years full time. I'm still a very young person and learning every day. I
That's
will always
good.
be
I love
learning.
it.
But what I was so grateful that people wanted to work with me and I was able to help them, but I needed to learn. And so I've absorbed so much from my process of being with people. You have to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And even more important for me is that I run groups of people who work together. And so not only is it just what can one person do, it's how do you lead a group of people or cohort together progressively. And so what I realized is you have to start with the ability to relate. You have to start with the ability to connect, which is for me to feel your thoughts, your feelings, and sensations as a single stream of experience that's happening now and be able to stay present to it and communicate it to another. And conversely, you need to learn how to do the same to reciprocate for someone else, which is when someone else is speaking, that you hear their words,
Hmm.
feel their energy, and you receive the stream of information that is present for them. And that is also a form of meditation or accessing a deeper level of consciousness in and of itself. It's a dimension of consciousness that for me is foundational to our
Hmm.
success in everything we do and is foundational to why we have so many challenges in our world. So this dimension of consciousness for me is like the internet. Our personal experience, my whole life history, plus what's happening for me moment to moment now, is not actually separate from you or the world. It's being transmitted all the time through a subtle presence that we could call the field. It's here with us now. And so much of why we feel separate and why we hold things, and so much of why we struggle is because our sort of body mind is not actually online and is not participating in this fluid reality that we are all sharing. We are separate in it. And this is why we hold things. So the first thing that I teach people how to do is how to engage together and to be present in this sort of living and fluid way. And from there, I am creating developmental architecture. I'm going to tell you about and like what do you do with this technology once you have this ability to access this dimension of life where everything that's ever happened is here and you can access it and you can feel it and you can process it and you can navigate through consciousness intelligently.
Hmm.
Where do you go? I said, well, everywhere. And for me, in a really important sequence, in a sequence that allows you to grow and not be too challenged by what you're experienced and gives you a foundation of presence in your body, which strengthens your ability to tolerate experience, stay present with others, and gives you more access to the subtlety of consciousness.
Whew. Wow. All right. Yeah. Listening to this, people. This is a lot of really wow. Wow. Good, good, um, deep and beautiful stuff. So okay, well, let's talk about you.
Uh,
So what how do you find your particular calling? Like, I mean, I can read your bio, but what would you say? What would you say to someone? I do this.
Uh, you become more connected to yourself, and the process of becoming more connected to yourself is progressive. It's always changing, it's building. And so your calling is something that is evolving. It evolves because you feel more, you know more, you have more interior content and more interior space, and it builds and grows. So you could think very simply for a child, like a child's life purpose when they begin is to be nourished, and then it's to play, and then it's to connect with others, and then it's to have personal power, and so on and so on. It grows. Eventually, it becomes all of
Mhm.
those things, right? It's never just one of those things, it's all of those things. And even before birth, the you could say, what is the purpose of life? Is to incarnate, to arrive, to be here. And all this information comes through the soul. So for me, as we become more connected to our bodies or our nervous system or our chakra system and to the subtle light of our soul, we are reconnecting to all those foundational drives in being human, the desire for safety, attachment, the expression of our needs, our will, our ability to care for self and others, our personal authority, and so on. So all of that is actually contained as the blueprint of our body and life. And the more that you embody it, the more that you contact it, the more it shows up in your presence, the more you become aware of it. So finding or calling it, it's more about like revealing it or discovering it within
Mhm.
yourself. It's not so much, I know you know this, but it's not so much about finding something out there in the world that's resonant. It's finding that actually your body is made out of motivation and intelligence. It's made out of energy that's trying to do something intelligently. And as you connect to more and more of it, it's able to actually express and manifest that. And so this is what I would emphasize.
That's so fascinating because I'm a dancer, right? So I've been teaching dance all my life, and movement and body awareness and connection. And when I find someone who is so disconnected from their body, like they don't want to move, they don't want to dance, they don't want to have that connection, and there's got to be so many blocks and so much fear in that, and really feeling and really allowing yourself to feel those things. And so, I mean, it's all part of our work. Uh,
But I bet you would also say something. I love that dance is a language that you speak. You would say, but bodies dance. That's what they do. Like that's the basic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you're not dancing, it's not because there's something wrong with you or there's something missing about the blueprint. You're right. It's just a matter of blocks and a lack of access. There's only a barrier that you can't see, and underneath that, people dance. That's what bodies do. They move.
They move. And
So
this is
how
all
do
we
you and
have
I
right here. This is
so how
it.
do you, exactly. So how do you and I together meet those blocks and then support that underlying dance that you're trying to dance in the world? That's how I would translate it to dance language.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so whew, we could just talk about this for a long time. What is next for you? You, Blaise, what's next for you?
Well, there will, I mean, as I said, what did I say earlier? I said every step is the most important step. I could absolutely say that about right now. And I could say that about what happened a year ago. I love working with people, and I work with groups of people from all over the world. And what I find is the more that I work with them, the more that I want to work, the further I want to go, the more that I want to create with them. So professionally, I'm in a process of really refining the teachings and programs that I run. And then once the people have taken them, I think, well, what else can I offer you? So I love working with people. I love teaching, and I love sitting with individuals and groups. So what's next for me is definitely to teach and work with people more because it's endlessly enriching to me.
Yes.
And personally, what's interesting to me more is that both in what's happening in me personally, but also more broadly, what's happening in the world, is making my experience is that the world and me all together are becoming more open and more subtle. And the higher dimensions, the light-based dimensions, which have really high spiritual potential, that things that haven't don't really commonly even exist on this earth are becoming possible.
Mm.
And I want to live that. I want to live all of it. I want to live and embody and explore as much of that as I possibly can. So that for me, the door is open. I have cleared so much, and I have for me the obviously the most capacity I've ever had, and yet I feel like I'm at the very beginning,
Mm.
and I feel that this particular time that we're in is a very special time. I feel like what has been maybe more rarefied and humans haven't had as much access to is increasingly going to be available. And so I'm taking the opportunity. I want to go farther and deeper. I want to do things that haven't happened before.
Wow, I love that. So, one of my main words that I love is curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, there's so much to explore. There's so much to live,
yeah.
right? And you're doing it. You're just doing it. And you're being able to not only take it upon yourself, but be able to give it back, right?
Well, those two things really, somebody just said this in the group. They said something like, I get people to work in triads, get people to work in groups. And they said something like, every person that I listened to today enriched my experience, helped me feel myself more. And I'm realizing that by feeling other people, there's this mutuality. There's not like a I grow or you grow, there's a we grow. And this is my experience. This both teaching and being me is a mutually informing process. The further I go, the more I have to offer, the more I have to offer, the more I actually receive and listen. This
Mm.
propels me to go further and expands my sense of motivation and my sense of potential. And I'm on that ride for as long as I am alive and beyond.
Well, I love it. It's a big circle. It's a big
And
circle,
yeah.
right? The more we learn, the more we give, the more we give, the more we learn, the more everybody benefits, the trickle down effect all over the place. That's so good. Okay. I had one other thing that I think I've lost it, but um, that's all right. This has been great. So, any parting words? No pressure.
Well, my main emphasis is to there in spirituality, there's so much emphasis on sort of on a personal path. And that's true. Our path in some ways is deeply personal. You could say in some ways the universe is singular and universal, and this is sought to be recognized, the oneself. And so I certainly encourage people to have that kind of orientation. But what I think is really alive for me in my work and what makes it unique is the collective reality. And so my encouragement is for everybody at this time is to find people who you are really aligned with and work with them and to work together as much as possible. For me, all of the higher dimensions of consciousness are fields of interrelatedness where there is a sort of mutual benefit and a mutual well-being that is a little bit foreign to humans at this period of time. Usually, when we want to have a spiritual development, at least I don't want to tell everybody what their experience is, but a lot of it is about sort of going inward in a way that you're actually sort of retreating from life.
Mm.
And that's beautiful. Like when we go and sit on meditation at a retreat, we're sort of very inward, and that's wonderful. But out of that, what's going to come is a very profound interrelatedness. And I think it is to all of our advantage, both personally and collectively, to create as much mutual benefit and much mutual um, growth and interrelatedness as possible. And so this is what I really encourage. I think this is the push of our time is collective action, collective awakening.
Yes.
And I also think it's actually more effective. To be honest, I think like when you think about the Olympics were on recently, and you have these incredibly motivated athletes. They have so much personal motivation. But the Olympic programs don't say, go on out there by yourself and become the best skier you can be with no help. What they say is, we're going to surround you with the
Mm,
best coaching, the best nutrition, the best programming, the best of everything. And we're going to leverage your personal motivation as much as possible so that you can go as far as possible. And this is how
I love that
most of the
so
really
much.
well-structured religions and or spiritual schools in the East are. They're collective, they're developmental, they're very large in scope, and they help aspirants move through
Mm.
together in a system. And I just, in my worldview, this is just the superior, I don't know if that's the right word. This is just the fastest and most effective way to get it, whatever it is that you want, better than working on your own.
Yes,
And this is the nature of why you have a podcast, I think, right? This is why people are
absolutely.
listening to this podcast. And this is why podcasts exist. So I say, don't be shy about that.
Hmm.
Like, be really overt and tactical about that. Just go and build yourself, get involved with the thing that feels most aligned with you, and enjoy it and be inspired by it as much and challenged by it as much as you can. This is the sign of the times. This is our zeitgeist right now.
It's so good. That's so important. And I'm so with you on that path. And that's part of why I love to bring in particular women's groups together. Like I just brought 17 women together last night who've never been in a women's group before. And they're like, oh, and then by the end they were just like, "Phew."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's right. Because we're here to connect with each other and uplift each other and learn from each other and share each other, which is why you're right. That's why I have this podcast, because I love people's stories and I love being able to share them. That's part of my superpower, is helping other people connect with each other and what they need and who they need and what they want to surround themselves with, to be surrounded by positivity and spiritual growth and expansion and all the possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Bam. Please. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, everybody out in Heart and Hustle Land. I'm so happy to be connected with you again this year. And I had taken a couple month hiatus off of this podcast, and so happy to be back full throttle and bringing beautiful things, beautiful people like you, Blaise, into our connection. So thanks for being here.
I'll just say to everybody explicitly, if you feel aligned with what I'm saying in the show notes, I'll put a link. You can come meditate with me. I run free meditations. I create all kinds of content, and of course, you can work with me in all these programs like the developmental architecture one that I spoke briefly about. I would love to meet you. So
Right on.
thank
And
you.
I will connect you with all his contacts too. So um that's great. So anyway, thank you for being here, and thank you everybody for being here. And until we meet again, many blessings. And I love you.